Ralph, why are you stirring up so much shit with the OGs, man?
La Raza, why are you doing that, dude?
Yeah. Pocos pero locos, way.
There's this like, oh my God. This is like saying like a Mexican's worst enemy is another Mexican.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and it's true. I don't like these Mexicans.
Wait a minute. Okay, listen, obviously there's this beef everybody's going around. I don't even know if it's beef.
I don't think so.
Nah, this shit's
I thought it was fine.
Nah.
Thought it was fine for real? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you did put a video out where you were killing him.
Yeah. I put out the edited version. I have a director's cut.
Oh.
I just thought it was funny because I like that movie, like Carlito's Way.
Yeah.
And I like the thought of like taking out the old dudes. But the reason that I put that video up was because I just started being on the road, and so every now and then somebody will be like, "You're the next George Lopez." Even before this George Lopez thing, my response was already like, "Yo, fuck George Lopez."
Oh, really?
Whenever somebody would yell that from the audience, or any Latino comedian they'd throw out, whoever their idols were, I was like, "Fuck your idols." But when that thing came out, I was just like, "Oh, this is perfect. This is like what I've been saying."
Yeah.
was that a real sentiment, or just I'm trying to get a laugh on stage when they say it? Or was your brain really like, yo, I'm coming for it. Fuck all these guys.
Nah, I wasn't really like coming for them. It's just that when they would name them, I'm like, I don't know, like.
Sometimes it's just a funny thing to say on stage.
Yeah, it's a funny thing to
Fuck
say.
that guy.
I just think it's funny that they're just like assuming I like looked up to George Lopez.
That's
or
the
something.
thing I wanted to ask you when you came up, because you're 26.
Yeah,
I'm 39.
yeah,
And I felt I was young when I was watching George Lopez.
yeah.
So,
I wasn't watching.
I don't
them.
think you ever grew up watching him.
Even when I was watching them, I was like, I don't get it.
Oh, come on. Nah, that motherfucker's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hate, bro. That's hate, bro.
It was good. That was good hate. You got to give it up for good hate.
That's hate.
Yo, watch, you got your chain on your.
I like that.
Wait, you
Yeah,
didn't think he was funny?
I like, yeah, he's funny, but I didn't think he was like. I'm not like gonna like, yo, man, I want to watch this George Lopez like special, or like, oh, the fucking show's gonna come on. Like, I would hear people quote him all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, I gotta see that one day. And then when I did
can't breathe.
see it, I'm like, yeah, it's
I
like,
can't breathe. That was so funny.
My chest.
yeah, like that. I don't know.
Next level, hey,
Comedy, now this is what it is. It's like comedy, you need comedy within the context of time, because this is how I felt about Pryor, because I saw Eddie first. So everybody would tell me, oh my God, Pryor's the truth. He's the greatest ever. And I grew up on Eddie. So when I saw Pryor, I was like, nah, he's not fucking with Eddie.
Yeah, I feel that.
This feels like, I know it's like blasphemy to almost say, this feels like a less funny version of this guy who is the king
Yeah,
for
comedy
me.
evolves with time.
So you're coming up, and also comedy's changing. Like, I imagine when George was putting out that first special, this is the first time Mexicans are seeing a guy relate and share their experiences in a comedic way, especially on fucking HBO. So they're seeing other guys, they're seeing Rock, they're seeing Carlin, they're seeing all these other dudes, and finally it's like, oh shit, yeah, he's talking that thing that I've experienced. Whereas you're watching it and you've seen all these jokes played out for 20 or 30 years by different people, different versions. So if you go back to it, you go, yo, there's better versions of all these takes.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I wasn't like huge into stand-up growing up though. Like,
Yeah.
and if I was watching stand-up, I was watching whoever came on TV around that time.
Yeah.
So it was like Comedy Central. So it was a lot of like Chappelle's thing, or like Patrice O'Neal's like special, like reruns of their like type of stuff, or clips or whatever. And by the time I did see like a George Lopez clip or something like that, I just remember he kept saying like stuff like, Latinos, you know us. And I like, that was like the corniest line in the world to me. For anybody to say like, you know us, man. Like, we get down. Or like, it was just like, I don't know, I couldn't get into it.
To his point.
So not saying it's not funny, I just couldn't get into it.
Yo,
like,
I'm George Lopez side now. Fuck these young kids, bro.
No, but this is
And George does say that in the podcast.
I started. It's almost like when young dudes look at the rap OGs, and the rap seems so simple, and they're just a hip hop, a hit it. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, what the
that's
fuck
what I'm
are you
watching.
doing?
Yeah, that's what it feels like I'm watching George.
Yes,
yeah.
but at the time, that Dr. Seuss shit was fire.
I bet.
You know what I
bet.
mean?
Yeah. Not to say he's not funny. Like, I'm like, yeah, he's funny as fuck. It's
Yeah.
just like, I'm not gonna watch him.
To his
Yeah.
point, you were like 3 when the George Lopez show came on the air. You were like 5 or 6 when the special came out.
Yeah.
So that thing back then, to his point, it's like when we saw Russell, I'm old enough to like see the beginning. I really felt exactly like what he said. Like, yo, we've never heard anybody talking to us. Holy fuck, I'm so happy. This is so funny. Young kids coming up now watching that are gonna be like, yo, there's 100 Indian comics. This one, he's doing this simple thing. It's like, no, back then, that was it. That was the only thing.
Yeah.
And George, back then, nobody was talking to them. So
Like
you're
George
watching
was
this
a
15,
Mexican
16.
comedian. You're
Yeah.
a comedian that's Mexican.
Okay, I see it. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you needed a Mexican comedian.
So that I could be a comedian that's Mexican.
Yes.
All right.
You know, because you're not going up there like, I got to tell you everything about being Mexican today. You ready?
Yeah.
Somebody
You know-
already told him.
You know us Mexicans. Man.
Yeah. Now I do, actually. Now I do. After George Lopez, now I get it.
That's why you don't have to, because now we know. Dead ass. We're like, we know Mexicans now because George
Right.
Lopez taught us.
Nah. He's like nice. I'm telling you, the dude called me after that whole thing. He said whatever. I wasn't mad when he said it.
Yeah.
Cause like I'm telling you, like I have like a whole lot of respect for him still. I'm not when he said it, I'm not like, what the fuck, like hurt about it. But I also wasn't like, oh yeah, who cares? It just was like, it's a fucking podcast. You're talking shit. Like,
Yeah.
So what if he said it? You know what I mean? Like he doesn't know me, so like it's his.
He knows you, my boy.
But it's his podcast. Like
You don't say I don't know somebody 5 times unless you know him.
Yeah, let you know. But yeah, he called me and he was like super cool. I was kind of like starstruck by it, to be honest, because I wasn't expecting it. But,
How did he call it? Was he like no. Tell me about the call. What
he
happened?
was just like, he's like, hey, Ralph, this is George, man, George Lopez. I was like, I wanted to call and apologize. And my first words was like, what the fuck? And I was like, my bad, man. I didn't mean to be like rude or nothing. It's just like, damn, it kind of caught me off guard, you know, that he's even calling me. And he was just like, yeah, man. He's like, I was kind of like in the heat of the moment where they're just kind of shooting the shit with Treviño and kind of fired up about it. But I didn't mean to like talk badly about you or anything like that. Like just kind of talking shit, you know? Like, but I apologize. I was like, you didn't have to, man. I was like, I appreciate that a lot. Like, you really didn't have to, you know? It's not like bugging me like that. He was like, no. He's like, I did. I had to, whatever. He's like,
That's decent, though, that he didn't do a public apology.
yeah, I wouldn't have. I don't think it had to be public at all. A lot of people online were like, "It's fucking, you slander him in public, you apologize in public." Like, nah, bro. Like, then it would have looked like he's just doing it
For
the
them,
people,
not for you.
Yeah, he's just like, he's like, comic to comic, man to man. He's like, I just want to apologize, man.
Yeah.
He's like, and you got my number. If you ever did need help with anything, you got my number now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was cool as fuck.
You gonna take him up on that? See if he's about it?
I'll probably wait till I'm like in a really tough jam.
Yeah.
Murder trial. I'm like, yo, about that time. Yeah, he was cool. It's that Steve Treviño guy. I'm starting to think he's the bad guy in all this.
It is weird with the OGs. I think that like, and again, you're a few generations away from George, but I think the perception of the people that we look up to is, for at least from us, you know, like with me, Patrice is my guy. And whenever I had the opportunity to interact with him, like I almost removed myself from it because I was like, I don't want to inconvenience him. I don't want to ask him for help. I don't want to ask him for things. Like, and probably they're twofold. It's like, one, I don't want to be rejected by someone I admire so much. And also like, he could never have time for me. But I think we forget that like, they're also comics despite their success. So they're also looking for some validation, some appreciation, especially from like the next crop. So they would probably love if we reached out. And love, we're like, yo, can I just get any advice? Is there anything, you know, I'm about to experience something you experienced earlier in your career, et cetera. And yeah, like, I guess maybe, yeah, I don't know if you've ever felt that way about like an OG that you looked up to. Nah, you got it, huh?
Nah, it's not that. I think I like taking advice from whoever, man. Like,
Yeah.
I do get what you mean, though. It's like, yo, I've looked up to this person. I don't want to, like, risk pissing them off or, like, being told something that's going to put me off to them.
Yeah.
But I didn't really start admiring a lot of the comedians out there until I got a chance to meet them personally. Then I was just like, yo, this dude's actually really cool. Or, like, this person's super funny and stuff. And then they started kind of helping me out. So I kind of went in, like, neutral. Like, there wasn't anybody who was like, oh shit, I get to work with this person. Like, I hope they give me advice.
Yeah.
I just kind of kicked back and was just like, man, whoever I get to work with, I'll work with them. If they kick advice, they kick advice. Like, I'll take it from whoever, you know?
I don't know the situation, but my assumption of it is a lot of times when people try to relate to a comedian, they talk about other comedians that are funny. And that's the last thing a comedian wants. Like, don't tell me this other motherfucker's funny. So I'm imagining George is getting a lot of people, they're trying to curry favor with him going, yo, have you heard about this young guy? You like this young guy? So he's hearing this nonstop, and now he's on his podcast, another guy's bringing it up, and he's like, yo, what the fuck is going on over here? I'm George, let's talk about me.
Maybe. I do know, like, at the beginning of that podcast, they were talking about Paul Rodriguez, I think.
Oh, yeah.
He had, like, some beef with Paul Rodriguez. I don't know what it was.
I think they got into it over a joke. I think they fought at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah. And then he was saying how like, I think people wanted him to like apologize to Paul or for talking shit about Paul. And he was just like, it's like, what do you say? Like, it's a fucking podcast. Like, just talking shit, man.
Yeah.
And then, so I don't know. They went onto the subject of like, do you help the younger guys? And George was like, I don't help nobody.
Yeah.
And then
he was probably like a little fired up.
Yeah.
From the previous time.
That's one of the reasons that it didn't bug me is because he was already like, proving the like, I don't fucking help people.
Yeah.
Like, fuck him, fuck. I feel like they could have named anybody and he would have been like, yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I think he also, at one point, if you look, I have heard he's not the most helpful guy, to be fair.
I have also heard that. Yeah.
Three-dimensional about it, but there's also a moment where he looks off camera and asks his homie, like, you heard of this guy? And the guy says no, and I think he's laughing at George. George looks at him and like lifts his eyebrows. Every comic knows we got a guy going off camera, we gonna fucking go. So then he goes, I don't know, fucking Jeremy Barbasol or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think he's just trying to make his homie laugh and he's wrapped up in it, and he's got the emotion.
Yeah.
But like, I think he just feels like he got a guy laughing.
Yeah.
Let's build momentum.
Yeah, I don't think it was that personal. I think it was very much like a whoever it could have been. My name is arbitrary. Is that how you use
You
that?
really stumbled on it, dude.
I almost thought that's what your name was. When you were saying that, I was like, yo, arbitrary, it's great to meet you.
And also, word could have got back to him. Like you said, people would say at your shows, like, oh, you're the next George Lopez. And you're like, fuck George Lopez. And maybe word got back to him. And now he's like,
yo, that's true.
Word, his youngest popping, you know?
Yo, that is true.
But my defense would be the same, like, I don't know, it's talking shit.
Yeah, it's a show. It don't fucking matter.
Yeah. If it's like really getting to anybody, I think they would have like told me something personally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think he's heard about it. I don't think.
Have you met comics before?
I probably said that once, like in Detroit or like Milwaukee, where they were like, "You're the next George Lopez." I was like, man, fuck George Lopez. Like, you're the next Paul. I was like, fuck
It gets
Paul,
back
right?
to them, bro.
Yeah? There's some guy in Milwaukee writing a letter like, boy, you're not gonna believe what I
They
heard
just
today.
hear it, man, and they just get upset. They're sensitive too. You don't think they are. You like I had and I'm glad that you don't look up to them because it doesn't matter as much. But when you admire them and then they let you down like that, that shit, that is
It stays with you.
Yeah, it's just like I remember there was
It would hurt if like Russell Crowe was like, fuck that Jeremy Barbasol.
yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Gladiator doesn't like me? That would suck.
That hurts way more, bro.
It hurts so much. Like, Spaniard hates me? Fuck.
Yeah, it was it's always tricky, man. I remember Chappelle was on Rogan and Rogan is the best. He's always trying to like give everybody a shout out and put everybody on. And he was like, yo, he was like, Chappelle, you're doing these great shows outside, or in the barn or whatever. And there's another guy who's doing a lot of great stuff online. This guy, Andrew Schulz, he's doing these videos online and turn your phone and he's writing jokes and there's images. And Chappelle just goes, yeah, I don't know about that slideshow shit. I do stand-up comedy. And it was just like, I remember watching like, oof.
That would hurt.
Damn, like I was upset. And then I realized that like, it's a probably similar situation where like people around Chappelle thinking they're gonna connect with him by going, hey, have you checked this guy out? He's also funny. And he's a comic. He don't wanna hear about that shit. He wanna hear about how he's funny. Like I've had friends who are just at random shows in New York saying that he'll like bring me up on stage and like, take little shots.
Damn.
It could be the top of the game. George Lopez, Dave, they'll hold on to shit.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And the lesson is to not let that happen to you, because there will come a time, you keep going, you're gonna be the king, and there's gonna be a motherfucker that's gonna take your spot to the youth, because you're gonna be old. You're gonna be 46, 56, and you gotta remember, I can't be like that.
Yeah.
I got to break that pattern. And
Everybody's
that's tough to
a
do.
Benny Blanco until they get Benny Blanco'd.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
100%.
But right now it's my time, so I'll enjoy it.
There you go.